I woke up to tubes down my throat and a machine beeping beside my ear. My ribs were cracked. My legs were in traction. My face was half bandaged and dry from blood. I was in the ICU alone. The nurse told me I had survived a high-speed collision. A hit from the side. Glass had gone through my shoulder. I'd lost a lot of blood, but I was lucky to be alive. She said I'd been unconscious for almost 19 hours. Then she said something else, gently. Your family was here, but they left early. They left. I blinked through tears, pain searing down my spine. The door was already closing. The next day, a different doctor came in with a clipboard. He looked concerned. Your father signed your release forms this morning. We tried to explain it was against medical advice, but he insisted. My voice cracked. I'm not ready to leave. I know, he replied, quiet and ashamed. But we can't stop him. He's your legal guardian. He said your family couldn't afford another day in this ward. I was still bleeding, still on oxygen, still dizzy every time I moved. But by that afternoon, I was discharged, dragged out in a wheelchair with my 4 pulled early and my stitches still fresh. They didn't even bring clothes, just handed me my phone, a crumpled hoodie, and a cab number. No one came to get me. I lay on the couch for the next 3 days, feverish, weak, alone. Every time I moved, I saw black spots. Then, on the 4th day, I opened Instagram. My jaw clenched. They were on vacation. Matching outfits. Sun hats. My little brother holding a smoothie in front of a resort pool. My mom posing with wine by the ocean. My dad grinning like nothing had happened. The caption said, "Much needed family getaway after a long week. Grateful for health, sun, and peace." Health? Peace? I lay on the couch, still unable to walk. My wounds had barely scabbed. My hospital bracelet was still on, and they were clinking glasses in a villa. That was the moment something shifted in me. Something small but permanent. I stopped crying. I stopped waiting. I picked up my phone and made a call. By the time they came back, I was gone. And when they opened the door to my room, someone else opened it for them. The screaming started right away, but it was too late. My name is Selena, and from wherever you're watching this video, stay with me, because this isn't a story about survival. It's about what happens when the one you left behind learns how to stand again. And this time, I wasn't standing for anyone but myself. My dad has always said the same thing about me. Selena's the strong one. She'll bounce back. It sounded like a compliment when I was younger. At 6, when I broke my arm and didn't cry. At 10, when I stayed home sick with the flu, so my parents could take my brother to his robotics camp. At 14, when they left me with an old neighbor during Christmas because flights were too expensive for 4. I was always the one who'd understand. The one who didn't need things. The one who knew better. My little brother, Noah, got new shoes every semester. I got hand-me-downs. He got cake and balloons. I got, "We'll celebrate next week." He got space to mess up. I got silence when I succeeded. "You're independent, Selena. That's a good thing," Dad said once. And for years, I believed him. Even after I paid my own way through community college. Even after I started covering my own medical bills at 19. Even after I skipped my senior prom to babysit Noah when they forgot he had school off. Every time I wanted to speak up, I told myself, they're doing their best. But that ICU visit? That broke the last excuse. They didn't forget me. They abandoned me because it was cheaper. Dad signed me out of hospital while I was still leaking blood from my chest and couldn't walk to the bathroom, just to save on a few days' worth of hospital charges. 3 days later, they were sipping cocktails in the Maldives. Not once had they checked on me. No calls, no messages, not even a bottle of water left behind. I would have starved if it weren't for my neighbor, Jen, a 60-year-old widow who heard me groaning through the wall and brought soup, clean towels, and painkillers. She sat beside me while I vomited into a bucket and whispered, "This is not what love looks like, sweetheart." I nodded, but deep down, I didn't fully believe it until I saw the vacation photos. They took Noah. They took champagne. They took peace and left me with fever and torn stitches. And when they came back, they didn't call. They didn't knock. They didn't ask if I was home. They unlocked the front door of the house they thought was still theirs, because technically the lease was under my dad's name, and barged right in with new shopping bags and a $1,000 suitcase rolling behind them. But they didn't find me on the couch. They found a woman in scrubs holding a clipboard. She looked them in the eye and said, "Can I help you?" They screamed, "Mom first, then Dad." Noah stood frozen in the doorway, holding his pool float. But the woman didn't flinch. She smiled. "Oh, you must be the guests. Selena told us to expect a reaction." And that's when it really began. The woman at the door didn't even flinch when my mom started yelling, "Where is Selena? Why are you in our house?" She stood calmly, clipboard in hand, in full nurse scrubs. "This isn't your house. I'm the new tenant." My dad pushed past her, red-faced. "That's impossible. This lease is in my name." She nodded. "It was until last month." They turned to the living room and froze. All the furniture was different. Neutral, minimalist. No family photos, no mismatched couches. None of the old stuff they'd left behind when they flew out for their luxury escape. Their voices cracked over each other in disbelief. "Where's the blue sofa? Who moved the mirror? What happened to our things?" The tenant, her name was Rochelle, gestured to the hallway. Everything was removed. Legally, with signed authorization. My dad pulled out his phone, pacing. "I'll call Selena. She doesn't have the right to do this. I'm taking this to court." But he couldn't call me, because I'd blocked him, and the number he was calling had long since been shut off. He turned to Rochelle again. "Who gave you permission to live here?" She smiled. "Selena Carter, the sole leaseholder." That's when they started unraveling. He stormed toward the back hallway, tried to push past her, but she stepped in front of him. "Sir, you don't live here, and if you attempt to enter the private quarters, I'll be forced to call security." "This is my house," he barked. But it wasn't. When he signed my discharge papers to get me out of the hospital early, he inadvertently gave me full legal freedom. I wasn't a dependent anymore. I wasn't a minor. I was free, and I acted fast. While they were clinking glasses in the Maldives, I had gone to the leasing office, updated all paperwork, and, with the help of a small payout from the hospital after I filed a grievance, paid off the next 3 months in full. The landlord had no objections. After all, I was an adult. The original lease had expired, and I was listed as a co-resident. When Dad didn't renew, I did. And the first thing I did with that power? I sublet it to a tenant I met through a nurse at the clinic I was recovering in. I moved out quietly, took what I needed, and left the rest behind. I stayed with Jen, my neighbor, while I healed. She gave me her guest room and a soft place to land. She fed me soup, let me cry, and reminded me that kindness wasn't supposed to be a reward. It was a basic human offering. Meanwhile, my parents returned to a home that no longer welcomed them. And the worst part? There was nothing they could do about it. Because for once, the girl they left behind had already moved on. I didn't leave in anger. I left in silence, because I knew by then that my pain didn't matter to them unless it inconvenienced them. So I gave them none. No tears, no warnings, no dramatic goodbyes, just space and consequences. For days after the discharge, I called the hospital board and asked to file a grievance. Not an emotional rant, a formal report. I was discharged from the ICU against medical advice, I told the administrator calmly, while still unable to walk, sit upright, or control my pain. I have documentation, photos, and the nurse's incident notes. I believe my life was endangered by someone else's decision. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. "You're the patient who was released on February 12th. "Yes. We'll be launching an internal review immediately." And they did. I sent the screenshots of Dad's text. "You're coming home today." No discussion. I sent the insurance form he filled out, scribbled in his barely legible scrawl, opting out of continued care. It was the first time I realized how much power he'd had over me, and how quickly he'd weaponized it to save a few dollars. The same week, I called my bank and asked to remove all joint accounts I had opened 1 year ago with my father listed just in case. I closed it. I opened a new one, locked with 2-factor authentication and a password no one else knew. I changed my credit card, changed my online passwords, checked my name wasn't tied to anything but my own records. Then I called my phone carrier and removed the family plan. A slow erasure. Quiet. Precise. Every click was a step away from them. Then came the apartment. I moved out quietly. Jen helped me box what little I had. My books, my clothes, my laptop. I left behind the rest. The clutter, the memories, the guilt. While my family was posting pictures of beach hammocks and dinner cruises, I was signing the lease renewal and calling in Rochelle, the nurse I met through a recovery support group. She needed a place close to the hospital. I needed someone who wouldn't flinch when my parents came knocking. We both got what we needed. The best part? They never saw it coming. They returned home expecting to walk into their old life. Furniture in place, daughter on the couch, everything frozen in time. But I wasn't frozen anymore. I had melted the illusion of loyalty they'd lived inside. I had stepped off the stage they forced me to perform on. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just walked off and took everything that mattered with me. My dad tried to regain control, of course. Angry voicemails, threats, legal bluffing. But it didn't work because I'd already learned something he never wanted me to know. Freedom doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's just locked doors and unanswered calls. And I wasn't just gone. I was finally free. It started with the usual damage control. My dad called my aunt and uncle first, then my grandmother, then the pastor from our childhood church. Selena's just angry. She's been emotional since the accident. She misunderstood everything. We never abandoned her. We just needed a break. She told the hospital she was fine. Why else would they discharge her? Each sentence twisted just enough to sound reasonable, especially to people who didn't know the full story. And for a moment, it worked. A few relatives sent me cautious texts. He says you signed the release too? Was it just a misunderstanding? Your dad's heartbroken. He said you cut everyone off. I stared at those messages with the same numb disbelief I'd felt when I saw their vacation photos from the ICU. So I did what I should have done months earlier. I told the truth. Not in rage. Not with vengeance. Just with proof. I started with a post. No drama. Just the facts. On February 12th, I was discharged from the ICU after a major car accident. I had multiple broken ribs, a concussion, and torn internal stitches. I was still on painkillers. I could not walk without assistance. I did not ask to leave. My father signed the forms against medical advice to save money. Then I added the photos. My bruised face, swollen and bandaged. The release form. The nurse's written note. Discharge against medical recommendation. Guardian insisted. And finally, a screenshot of my family on vacation 3 days later. Cocktails, palm trees, matching outfits. I didn't add a caption. Didn't need one. The truth was loud enough. Within an hour, the post had 200 shares. By the end of the day, it had thousands. People from all over commented with rage, support, and stories of their own. This is unforgivable. You didn't overreact. You survived. Families like this break people. I'm so glad you left. You're not dramatic. You're brave. My DMs filled with kindness I never expected. Even people from my old church reached out. We always thought your dad was controlling. We just didn't know how much. My mom deleted her Facebook by the next morning. My dad set his profile to private. And my cousin texted me, "What the hell? Your dad's been lying to everyone." But the part that hit hardest? Noah. He messaged me 2 days later. "Noah, Selena, did all that really happen?" Me, yes. "Noah, they told me you were mad at us for no reason, but I saw the hospital pictures." Then, "Noah, I'm sorry I didn't check on you." I stared at his message for a long time. I didn't blame him. He was just a kid, dragged along in their fantasy. But even he could see the truth now. My father hadn't just lost control. He'd lost his mask, and I hadn't shouted to tear it off. I just told the truth. I didn't disappear. I just stopped showing up where I was never truly seen. My recovery wasn't instant. My body still ached. My sleep was uneven. Some nights I'd wake up gasping, heart pounding, convinced I was still trapped in that hospital bed, tubes in my arms, no one beside me. But healing came, slowly, gently. Jen's spare bedroom became more than a safe space. It became my restart button. She treated me like someone who mattered. Not because I did anything for her, just because I existed. That was new. She taught me how to sit in silence and not apologize for it. She let me cry without asking questions. She listened without interrupting. It was in that quiet that I began to rebuild, not just my life, but my sense of self. I applied for a remote job at a design firm in Portland. A small role, data admin and content editing. They hired me the following week. It wasn't flashy, but it gave me income, independence, structure, a chance to choose who I wanted to become now that I wasn't orbiting someone else's demands. Eventually, I found a place of my own. A one-bedroom apartment, tiny kitchen, mismatched floors, a window that caught just enough morning light to keep my new plan alive. But it was mine. No one could take it. No one had keys but me. No one could show up uninvited or demand I sacrifice comfort for someone else's illusion of control. There were no staged photos, no faux family moments, but there was peace, and it was priceless. Meanwhile, silence from my end spoke louder than any confrontation ever could. At first, they tried the guilt route. Emails, voicemails. Mom even sent a package with a card that said, "Family fights, but we forgive. Come home." Home? They left me on a couch post-ICU and flew to paradise. That wasn't home. That was captivity with better curtains. Then came the flip. Anger disguised as concern. "You've made your point. It's gone on long enough. We all make mistakes, Selena, but you're tearing this family apart." That line made me laugh. Tearing the family apart? I wasn't the one who left my daughter in a medical gown to recover alone. I wasn't the one who lied to every relative and hoped she'd stay silent. I wasn't the one who only noticed someone's value once they stopped being useful. I never replied, and slowly I watched the energy shift. They stopped asking me to come back. They started asking others to fill the gaps, cousins, extended family, even Noah. But it never worked, because what they wanted was the version of me who stayed quiet, showed up, and cleaned up every mess. And that version, she was gone. All that was left was me. Fully, finally, and for the first time, enough. It came at 6:12 p.m. on a Thursday. A message from a number I deleted long ago, but still recognized by heart. "Dad, we miss you. Can we talk?" 7 words. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just a request. Like I'd disappeared over a mood swing. Like I hadn't bled in silence. Like I hadn't been thrown out of my own recovery to save them money and spare them inconvenience. I stared at it for a long time. Part of me waited for the follow-up message. Something softer. Something human. But that was it. "No, I'm sorry we left you. No, you didn't deserve what happened. Just we miss you. Just can we talk?" It made me wonder, what do they miss? Do they miss me? Or do they miss who I was before I said enough? Do they miss the daughter who paid her own bills so they could cover Noah's tuition? Do they miss the backup plan who smiled through birthdays they forgot? Do they miss the girl who forgave everything because at least they're still here? Because that girl? She's gone. I walked to my bookshelf, pulled down a folder. Inside, my new lease, my updated ID, my job contract, and at the very back, my hospital file, stamped in red, discharged against medical advice. I'd kept it for months, not out of bitterness, out of clarity. That one form taught me more about my worth than 20 years in their house ever did. I walked to my desk, sat down at the window where the sunlight spilled across the room. Then I took a photo, me smiling calm, the lease in one hand, the hospital folder in the other. No tears, no makeup, no filter, just proof. Proof that I was still here, still standing, without them. I attached the photo and typed one line. "Your silence cost you everything. I'm not coming back." I hit send. Then I blocked the number, not out of spite, out of peace. Later that night, I sat with Jen and showed her the message. She didn't say much, just nodded once, slow and proud. "You didn't need them to say sorry," she said. You needed to know you could live without it. She was right. For years, I believed healing had to come with their permission. That closure meant reconciliation. That peace required a mutual understanding. But it didn't. Sometimes, peace looks like a locked door, a quiet evening, and knowing you never needed their love to define your worth. My dad never replied, but I knew he saw the message. The read receipt glared back at me for hours before I blocked it. And I smiled not because I won, but because I'd finally walked away before I bled out trying to prove I was enough. They missed me when I was gone, but they never saw me when I was right there trying. And now, they'd never get that chance again. The apartment is small, but every inch of it is mine. There's a chipped mug by the windowsill, a blanket that still smells faintly like lavender, and a journal open on the table with half-written thoughts in soft pencil. No chaos, no noise, just the quiet hum of the fridge and the sound of me breathing without fear. It's been almost a year since the ICU. 10 months since I left without warning. 3 since the last message. And somehow, without the drama, without the shouting, the silence finally feels like home. This morning, I woke up without pain. Not just physical. The other kind. The kind that lived in my chest for years. The ache that came with always being second to someone else's comfort. That familiar sting of pretending I'm fine while drowning. It's not that I don't think about it. I do. I remember the beeping machines, the nurse's gentle hand, the silence when I realized no one was coming back. But now those memories float by like passing clouds, visible but no longer storming through me. Today I wrote in my journal, I used to beg for love in small ways, through chores, through silence, through obedience. Now I love myself loudly, by resting, by choosing, by walking away. I closed the book. No need to write more. I've made new friends, started a small book club, picked up freelance work designing covers for authors who, like me, are still learning how to tell their own story. I drink coffee slow, walk to the park sometimes without music. Let myself be proud of the quiet victories. There's no revenge left in me, not because they didn't deserve it, but because I don't want to carry their weight anymore. They were the fire, but I was the match that walked away before burning. Jen still checks in, though she's traveling more now. She sends postcards, always handwritten. You saved yourself. That's the story I'll tell when people ask what courage looks like. I keep those cards on my fridge. No family photos, no holiday cards, just the quiet proof that love can find you, even if it doesn't look like the family you were born into. I haven't heard from my parents since the last message, and I'm okay with that. No more wondering what they're thinking. No more hoping they'll see what they did. No more need to convince them that I mattered. Because I do. Not because they say so. Because I lived. Because I healed. Because I build a life without their approval. I light a candle near the window and sit with my thoughts. I don't cry. I just breathe. And smile. And let go. Not because they ask for forgiveness, but because I no longer need their apology to move forward. They abandoned me when I couldn't walk. And now that I stand tall, they'll never stand beside me again.